Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to the very first Williamson Herald Sports Extra for the 2016 high school football season. Hi, I'm Joe Williams, the sports editor for the Williamson Herald, along with my old friend, and yes, he's old, Maurice Patton, the executive editor of MoPattonSports.com. I got to pick on you a little bit.
It's all right. I'm just glad that I graduated to my own mic.
Well, that's right. I'm telling you, big things are happening here at the Herald. Now, Maurice, we kid a little bit, but this really is. It's been that kind of summer that's just kind of been real sleepy.
And real short.
And now all of a sudden, it's not like we're going to work our way into high school football season. It explodes with rivalry game after rivalry game in the first week. Now, before you get too excited, don't forget we're going to cover all this in the annual Williamson Herald preseason football media guide. That'll be coming out on Thursday in print. We'll tell you more about that a little bit later because we'll talk about all these games too. And I guess the first one starts Thursday night. Ravenwood goes to Siegel. Last year, Siegel came over. That was what kind of kick-started that Ravenwood State Championship run. This year, different coach. Kids are maybe not as many. Some have gone on to Nolensville. It's a different Ravenwood.
Absolutely, it's a different Ravenwood. It's going to be a different Siegel as well. That team was 3-9 last year, started 0-8. My hat's off to Greg Wyant for keeping that bunch together. They really went through a lot of stuff off the field. Lost a kid in a gun accident. Lost another kid with a head injury, and hope he's continuing to recover and do well. But they went through a lot, and that 47-27 loss at Ravenwood certainly didn't help the situation. I don't think we realized how good that Ravenwood team was at that time. They got better as the season went, but like you said, lost some numbers, obviously lost some personnel, lost a coach. So it's going to be a fact-finding mission, I think, for them when they go over to Murfreesboro Thursday.
And that's something we're going to talk about more and more as we go through this. The number of teams in the county who, obviously we had 3 state championships in Williamson County last year, but the number of teams who lost just stalwart, standout players, and how many of those had somebody sitting in reserve ready to go. We think that could have been the case down at Independence, where the Eagles won a state championship and they open on Friday night against their old rival Brentwood, a Brentwood squad that has seen Coach Crawford come back and reinvigorate that bunch. And people are expecting a lot of things out of Brentwood this year.
I think they are. For them to rally from a 1-3 start to get to 6-6 and get into the playoffs, I don't know if people expected that team to be a playoff team at the start of the season, but you knew one thing, that whatever they had, Ron Crawford was going to get it out of them. And I looked back, did a little homework. They finished up 6-6, like I said, won a playoff game.
Yep.
But their 6 losses: Independence, Ravenwood,
Right.
Centennial twice,
Right.
Henry County, and Franklin.
It's not like that. There's not a bad loss in that bunch.
They're really, well, unless you're Ron Crawford.
Well, you know.
but
You know
yeah,
what I'm saying.
being objective about the situation, they lost to some really good ball clubs, and I think they learned from it. And I think it'll be interesting to see how they come out this time around. Now, I think they've got their work cut out for them going to an Independence team that, like you said, won a state championship, lost a lot, but I think they've got a lot in reserve.
Ooh, I think they got a lot sitting there waiting to come. There's rivalry game number 1 to open week number 1. Let's go to rivalry game number 1A, which will be right here at Franklin, the Battle of Franklin, when Centennial comes calling on the Rebels. And I know, Mo, you're a graduate of Franklin. Your kids graduated from Centennial. I know you're kind of torn sometimes. I think everybody in town is. I think we're both just looking for a good ball game. I think we're going to get it.
I think you're right. And I think there's a lot of little undercurrents to this ball game. I mean, you've got coach principal, you've got
coach,
which was coach player.
Right.
And there's a lot going on here. So it's gonna be an interesting matchup. It really is. Centennial won this game 20-0 last year. Kick-started their 12-2 season, went to the state finals and state semifinals.
Right.
Finished 12-2, but again, lost a lot, including a kid who's really looking good out in College Station, from all I hear. So it'll be interesting to see how Matt Kreisky regroups with that bunch and what they've got. Meanwhile, from what I can gather, Franklin's going to pound it behind two stellar offensive linemen in Caden Williams and Max Ray.
Yep.
So
Ray Jr. already committed to Georgia.
And Caden Williams is a kid who's going to have an opportunity to play at the college level as well. So I think Donnie kind of likes the idea of just pounding the rock anyway.
He does.
So it may not be pretty, but it's liable to be effective.
It's going to be a good game. Franklin, on paper, has some real names coming back, both offensively and defensively. Their question, like so many others, is what kind of quarterback play are they going to get? How are they going to do in the running game? Can they pound some things out? The defense in the middle, especially at the linebacker position, looks really strong. It's going to be another one of those, hey, could be anybody's, and it could just as easily be a blowout by the time it's done. You just don't know.
You don't know. And the thing that concerns me about Franklin coming into this ball game, looking back at last year, finished 8-4, went to the second round of the 6A playoffs, but in their 4 losses, they were outscored by like 15 points a game.
Yeah.
So they need to be able to score, whether it's controlling the ball and pounding folks into submission, or getting some turnovers and some short fields out of their defense. They need to be able to score some points and either pull away from some folks or salt things away. So I'm interested, like you said, in the skill position development of this ball club.
The other rival game 1AA, if you will. I mean, they're all out there this weekend, out at Fairview. Page goes out to see the Yellow Jackets. This one is always a slobber knocker just because they're the two schools who are kind of outside of a, quote, city area, if you will, and they're the country cousins, and they don't mind knocking heads.
They don't mind knocking heads, and I think after Fairview went to Page last year and dropped a 38-7 decision, Page will have Fairview's full attention Friday night, and Chris Hughes will make sure of that, and I don't think you'll see a Fairview Yellow Jacket team sleepwalking this time around. I'm interested to see what the quarterback Cam Harris Lusk looks like for them. Sophomore, talking to Chris, he's really excited about his potential and what he's done on the basketball court. He's already kind of been exposed to some high pressure situations, and he thinks that'll carry over onto the football field. And both these teams in a little bit of a rebuilding mode, particularly at quarterback. Page lost Michael Magochi, very productive guy for them, and Michael Roberts as well, a 1,000-yard rusher and one of their leaders on defense. So you got a couple of teams who have some expectations but have lost some folks.
And, of course, you got the other kind of rivalry game, we'll call it 1C, if you will, and that's Summit, who looks to be much improved after winning 4 games last year, hosting Spring Hill, who they pretty well spanked last year on the road to open the season.
Yeah, Spring Hill took that one 27-15. I think Brian Coleman feels really good about this bunch. He's got 21 of 22 starters coming back from last year, and this is a team that was in the playoff hunt into the last 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Spring Hill under a new coach, former Centennial assistant Jay Emmons, who has some collegiate experience as well. So he's gone down there and instilled some discipline in a short period of time. They've got a great receiver, Justin Oden. If he's healthy, he can be a big-time guy for them. So Summit may have their hands full. Could be an interesting matchup with Oden and Ty Carter.
Yeah, Oden, that says enough right there, down through in the Spring Hill area.
Absolutely.
That family, just what a tradition they've got going. Elsewhere, the Division II schools, I can say that, get started. Big game up at Brentwood Academy where they host Olive Branch out of Mississippi. That's always a good contest. The guys from Mississippi typically are a very strong team in that area and usually make for a decent test for Brentwood Academy.
Yeah, again, like you said, Brentwood Academy coming off of a D2 AA championship, their first one in, 9 years? Finally getting the gold ball back over there, and got a lot of guys back from that team, particularly the quarterback, Jeremiah Oatsvall, who's an Austin P commitment, and a couple of great junior receivers in Cameron Johnson and Daniel Taylor. It's always fun to see these teams that have won it, what they do for an encore. And like you said, Olive Branch is always pretty solid, solid team coming out of Mississippi. Be interesting to watch Brentwood get that first step and see how they do against this squad.
BGA will get rolling by going on the road to Madison and facing Good Pasture in another contest that ought to be a good test for BGA and give Coach Rock Patton an opportunity to find out where he's at, since for the first time in, I guess, his entire tenure at BGA, he won't be looking for a quarterback by screaming Beathard.
No, he won't. And it'll be interesting to see which name he does scream, whether
Yeah.
it's Drew Martin or Jake Holloway at that spot for him. But, Good Pasture has really struggled last couple of
Yes,
years.
they
They're
have.
coming in here on a 21-game losing streak, 0-10 each of the last 2 years, lost in the second round of the playoffs back in 13.
Mm-hmm.
So, you would think BGA comes out on top in this one. They won 46-0 last year. Not sure exactly how much they learned from it, other than maybe who their quarterback is, because I think they'll have an opportunity to play them both.
Yep, and they'll go back into action the next week. Of course, these are all the games that we'll be covering on Friday night, but before we get to Friday night, I want to tell you again not to forget the annual Williamson Herald preseason football media guide coming out on Thursday. Maurice, it includes this year an all-county team where both the offense and the defense is full for 2 teams deep. There's 56 kids who have made this team, and we really didn't anticipate that when we started. But when we started looking at what some of them have done and how they've represented themselves, it was hard to say, nah. It really was.
It's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of these teams, like for all that we talked about, what some of these squads lost, some of them got a lot coming back and a lot of proven talent. We've got at least 2-3 guys that are already committed here in this county for the 2017 recruiting class, and it's depth. It's deep. I mean, you've got some young talent as well. So, keep an eye out for that all-county, that preseason all-county team, because there's going to be a lot of names on there that either you're familiar with or you'll need to be familiar with.
You should be, and you will be before this year is over.
No question.
Final quick note for you, if you are headed to Fairview, make sure you get there early. There's a lot of construction on site, and it's right in the middle of where you go down to the football field out in Fairview. As a matter of fact, AD Ricky Jones tells me they are planning on doing VIP parking. I'm not sure exactly what's entailed on that. Don't know if there's a charge or not, but they're offering VIP parking at
Shuttle?
Fairview. No, I think it may be valet kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll find out. And also, obviously, if you're going to the Battle of Franklin, folks, get here early on Friday afternoon. Kickoff is set for 7 o'clock. If you have not been up and down Hillsborough Road since the new widening construction got underway, remember, before you can widen, you've got to narrow, and they've done an excellent job of that. So not only was it tough to get in here to begin with, but I got to tell you, Friday night, actually, I'm thinking about coming over about 2:30 with a grill, and a cooler, maybe doing some lunch and bringing a TV.
You may not be the only one with that idea. I mean, if you get here and do that, don't expect to be here by yourself. Also, as we're sending out cautionary advisories, that Brentwood Independence game,
that's another one.
It's always tough to get to Independence. That's a TV game as well, so parking may be at a premium down there. So, again, prepare accordingly.
Yep, and these are just places it's hard to get in and out of as far as getting to parking. You think it's bad now, wait till we go to Nolensville, but we'll touch on that a little bit later. Right now, let's wrap up a very long first edition of the Williamson Herald Prep Football Extra for Maurice Patton and Charles Pulliam behind the cameras, pulling the strings. Yes, we're just puppets. I'm Joe Williams. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you at a ball game Friday night.